And we're live. Hi, sorry about the short delay there. As you can see, Simon isn't here yet. He's having a bit of trouble getting on, but he should be with us very shortly.
Hi, sorry about the short delay there.
Whoa, hang on. I can hear myself. That's definitely no good. Okay, so Tom, hey, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. And this time with a webcam that hopefully will hold up and actually be working, so people can see me.
Excellent. Well, if you find yourself here and you wonder what it's all about, this is the second of our podcast style live chats where we talk about the Drowned Earth, the news, strategy, general gaming, chit chat, other games, all sorts of things. This is still a very new format. We're trying to ensure that it goes out on the first Thursday of every month in the evening. And if you've got any suggestions, then feel free to throw them our way. Now, I know that also we've got a bunch of people in chat. So hello to everyone who's watching live. Please throw us questions, feedback, add to the conversation. And I know Tom's monitoring the chat, and Simon will be as well. So get involved. So Tom, how's your week been? Tom?
Yeah, apologies. I think I just had a bit of a lag spike just then.
But, excellent. Well, so just you were too cocky about your new setup, I guess. So this since last we spoke, the winter campaign's nearly winding up. We're nearly over with it. We're now in the final of the 4 rounds, and it's been a pretty fun ride. I think I've been getting lots of great feedback. It took me a little bit longer than I wanted to get the last scenario out, but that's because there were a whole plethora of QR codes involved, so that during the game, when certain things happen, you can scan a QR code and it'll take you to the relevant section on the website so that you can find out what's happening without the sort of spoilerification of having read the scenario ahead of time. So I hope people enjoy that, but it did mean that I was a bit delayed in getting it out to people. Hopefully that's a format that works out quite well. I mean, I know some people are a bit understandably a bit sort of against having mobiles at the gaming table, and I'm certainly not a fan of people sort of trawling through their phone while you're playing a game. But with a sort of player aid like that, it makes life a lot easier when the winter campaign isn't a sort of buyable product where you can pop open envelopes and look up reference cards and things like that. So when you have to print out all of this stuff at home, I'm hoping that the QR code sort of gives the same effect, but with less effort on the part of the people playing. So Tom, are you back with us?
Yes, apologies. I think unfortunately my laptop is a bit too old to handle, doing anything at all. So back to the desktop. So
well, never mind. Yeah, I think well, we've now got two of you, which is a bit disconcerting. One's definitely enough. And so, Tom, have you looked much at the sort of results of the winter campaign, where the standings are at the moment?
Yeah, so I was kind of looking at the results there, because you sent them through to me a little while ago, just to sort of flag some things up, and the fact that the militia and bondsmen both seem to be like really neck and neck, while unfortunately the artifactors, which is who I've been playing during the campaign, have unfortunately fallen completely down. I can't take total credit for that, but I feel like I've not done particularly well. But yeah, it's just the fact that those two factions have really sort of just romped away with it, and it'd be interesting to know why. That if it's just that everyone was using this as a nice a reason to sort of get a new faction out, and did everyone just paint their artifactors and firm and wayfarers first, or is it just that every militia player and bondsman player has just been particularly good this the last few rounds.
Well, so I think it's probably a bit of both. From looking at the sort of the back end of the stats, what I've noticed is that although the spread of players has been reasonably, spread of factions was reasonably even. Bondsman and militia players have just been much more diligent at playing their games and getting their results in. Which means that less so the wayfarers, but the firm and the artifactors, being the smallest two factions in terms of the amount of games played, their results are just much swingier. So I think that's part of it. But it's very interesting that two factions have just gone like really a little bit ahead and a little bit behind of each other for the whole tournament. It's interesting to see.
Yeah. It also Sean in chat has just said about guns and big guns, and yeah, it's a case of, I guess, the firepower the militia throw out is pretty scary at times. The event that you ran at Element Games, when I came up against some militia players, and that minigun just blew me off the board. So
there's definitely a learning curve there, and I also I wonder to what degree it's something I've seen with other games as well, that there's a difference in the board state of a lot of players as compared to the play testers. And so we balance for the sort of board that we regularly play on, and if you sort of look at the rule book and the forums and what have you, and sort of see what kind of terrain's required, I certainly, most of the time when people are showing pictures of their boards, I'm sort of sucking my teeth a little bit and saying, oh, not quite enough terrain there. The bondsman, the militia are going to have a field day on that board. Having said that, the inverse is true of the bondsman. If there's too much terrain, then the bondsman have an advantage, and the bondsmen have also been doing particularly well during the campaign, so it can't be entirely scenery related. I mean, I know to some degree when you have very object oriented, very objective oriented scenarios, then it isn't a straight fight, and so the bondsmen have more of an opportunity to get up close and personal, because everybody's got to get into the center of the board to score those objectives. And I also think another thing is that if you look at the Wave 1 releases, there's a reason why the firm Wave 1 release, La Casque, has got a big gun which will basically knock out a sniper for a turn, and he's got camouflage as well. So he's if you manage to get him in cover and with camouflage, taking a sniper shot at a sniper, he can neutralize them for that turn, and you can sort of get in. And there's a reason why that model was introduced, and Ando on the side of the artifactors as well, being giving the artifactors some sorely needed close combat expertise against the bondsman. Both of those things are sort of balancing, and I think to a degree it's easier to play a faction which specializes in one thing, because you always know what to do. Play them to their strengths. The artifactors and the firm, and also the wayfarers to a large degree, are all middle of the road factions. They've all got a bit of everything, and so you've got to be a bit wiser about your lists. And of course, so I realized that I never got to the end of the point. The Wave 1 models should help out against those extreme situations. But of course, up until this last round of the campaign, Wave 1 models haven't been available because you've been playing out of your faction starter box, really.
Yeah, it's interesting you were sort of talking about the Wave 1 models, because I was definitely going to be talking about the firm one later on when we talk about the firm, because it added it gave something that I think the firm was lacking, with the ability to blind with the sort of the Quake cannon.
Yeah.
So maybe that's something that if people will be able to, in a future campaign, when you've got Wave 1 and potentially other waves. That's up to you to discuss about that one, James. But you know, having more options there, maybe that might sort of swing things back. Maybe that, you know, having more options for the artifactors to sort of really tailor their list towards a specific playstyle.
Yeah, I think that's definitely something that I'm very eager to think about, and you know, it's that's the point of having new model releases, right? They add versatility to the factions that you have already, but also there's an opportunity to mix things up a little bit in terms of balance, and give people tactical options and see what they do with them, and see whether they see the opportunity to take that model and you know, upset an existing play style that's favored, you know, from a particular faction that's seen as stronger than the other. You know, there are all sorts of intricate little things to discover, little tactical combinations and things like that within the rules, which I just imagine, you know, the game's still quite young. People won't have discovered a lot of those, and a lot of ways around handling certain situations. Yeah, you know, the new model releases, the theme of Wave 1 really was bringing every faction a little taste of something that isn't their normal way of doing things, giving them access to something that they're not normally good at. And of course that'll be limited, because otherwise you water down all the factions and none of them have a play style. But you just I look at the Drowned Earth list building as a kind of Swiss Army knife type approach, where you want to make sure you've got the right tool for the job, sort of thing, depending on what situation you face. And it's one of the nice things about the tournament structure being the way it is, you know, bringing a pool of models and being able to tailor your list to every game.
Yeah, it's a nice option. It's something when I used to play War Machine, was that, you know, having multiple lists that you could bring and that you had the ability to sort of swap in and swap out. That was something I quite liked, as opposed to when, you know, you bring a structured list of, you know, if you're 40k, it was, you know, this is your Space Marine army, and
Yeah.
really options for you to sort of mix and match. Whereas I guess this one, it's actually, you can sort of work out and actually think, well, if I'm going to start facing more militia players, I need to maybe include this stuff, and you've got that pool of models to sort of start at least sort of thinking about that tactically.
Yeah, absolutely. Story-wise, you know, if it's still not too late to get into the winter campaign. We actually had 3 days ago a new applicant. You can certainly catch up and play all of the other games. They obviously won't change the round-to-round results, but they do count towards the final result of who's winning and who's losing. So all of you Furman Artifactor players out there who haven't played your games, pull your finger out and try and raise your team's general standard. It's not too late to turn the whole thing around.
We could get like about 24 ringers to just play the game. Although I feel like that wouldn't be such a clever idea, of like 12 new Artifactor players who've never played before. And then
I'll definitely smell a rat if we get 12 Artifactors signing up all in a row, all with variations of Wom Twilliams and other such names. So that takes us neatly onto the top table event in Manchester that we are going to be running on the 23rd of this month, the 23rd of March. And it's a slow grow league, which is based on the winter campaign. So effectively, the winter campaign has been the first iteration of a regular slow grow document, which I'm going to produce, so that when new groups of players get involved in the game and they want to get their local gaming club or their local gaming group involved, they can run an official slow grow event, where, exactly as we've seen in the winter campaign, you start off in your first game with 3 models, then you go to 5, the full faction starter box, then you add a couple of dinos to that, and then in the last game you get a full 120 point list where you can mix and match however you like, use mounted leaders, use new releases, use dinos, use wayfarers, whatever you want to do, whatever's legal, effectively. So very much looking forward to that. I know you were thinking about flying over from Geneva, but couldn't quite make it this time. But it won't be the last time we run it, I think.
No, sadly, I'm having to look after a small squawking toddler instead, as my wife has to travel for work. So
Yes, a different kind of miniature.
yes, you know, not as much fun to like, you know, as rolling dice and playing with toy figures. But to be honest, like, the
I hope your wife's
weekend
not within earshot.
but yeah, the Weekender sounds really good though. Like there's sounds like there's going to be loads of other stuff there as well. Like, you know, for, you know, if you want to do like sort of painting events and other stuff like that, there's quite a few sort of very good painters. And also, you know, you should probably ask James for tips on painting, because he is, you know, will be too modest to mention it. But he has won several. When we used to play the Lord of the Rings tournament scene, he won quite a few painting awards for that one. So if you want tips about painting for Drowned Earth, James is definitely someone to actually ask.
Well, that's very kind. I did actually share one of the rare pieces of work that I've done recently in the group, because I was lucky enough to go on a course with the legendary Bohun. Is a Polish painter who just has incredible and very unusual style. So it was really an awful lot of fun. I see Simon's coming on. We're just going to keep on chatting. We'll bring you in a sec, Simon. But yeah, I did post something recently, but I just don't get much of a chance to paint anymore. But I've been missing it, and I kind of need to find a way to make it into work. And the obvious way to do that is just do a bit of painting while on YouTube, either live streaming or recording, you know, while I'm talking. I'll try and give a few tutorials, but I think there's a lot of really great tutorial information on painting. What I definitely will do, I think, is do some scenery building and table building tutorials, because again, there's lots of great material on YouTube for that sort of stuff already. But some stuff which is, you know, really Drowned Earth specific, like making rope bridges and vines, you know, all of that sort of stuff, doing sort of jungle weather effects, etc.
I remember someone posted on the Facebook fan page, and it never got finished, or they never posted any finished bits. But they did some really great like starter works of like wrecked sort of those raised highways you get in America. That,
yeah,
fallen down, and that looked like the sort of thing that I was like, actually, that looks brilliant, because I can imagine that's like, you know, really Drowned Earthy, the idea that
it's very Fallout, right? I remember in Fallout 3, I think there were all those areas with those big what do you call them? Yeah, motorways on stilts.
I'm sure the Americans will be able to tell us
yeah, but I think they call it something different to us, but we have a term for it as well, and I absolutely can't remember. Simon, come on, you must know.
Motorways on stilts, you mean?
Motorways on stilts. What are they called?
Flyovers.
Flyover, exactly.
Overpass. That's what Sean saw.
Yeah, I'm done, guys. I'm out. Bye.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, you know, you served your purpose. Well done.
but that sort of stuff, like, because that for me, like, I can really imagine in my mind the idea that like those like ruined like flyover overpasses like have fallen down, but like been like bridged over a bit, and they form like that kind of passageway between settlements and stuff. And I was thinking like that would be brilliant for a table, would be have an entire length of that, like but of course it's you know, far beyond my model making and scenery building talents.
Well, I mean, something else to think about is if you look at the art in the rulebook for Skyton, it actually is exactly that. It's a town built on a spaghetti junction that's collapsed. So I can't bring it up, but it's let's have a look at the rulebook. Maybe I can.
I kind of like, with regards, when I think of the Drowned Earth to an extent, I kind of think of that opening scene of what's the zombie film? The one where he wakes up. Later? Huh?
28 Days Later?
Yes, that opening scene to 28 Days Later, when he wakes up in the hospital and walks out, and just it's desolate. That's kind of that, but with a little bit more foliage. That's kind of how I see it.
That's the
Yeah.
That's the image that I'm talking about. That's the picture of Skyton, which is the home of the militia. So in chat, I'm just going to drop the link of the Top Table event if anybody wants to come along. And the other thing we've got to mention is that Simon's head Wayfarer counterpart in the States, Sean Galligan, is running the Tech Rush event at Adepticon.
Definitely, it's going to be an amazing event, I think, that one.
Yeah. Particularly since I might just have managed to get. Do you know what? I was going to show this right at the end, but I'm gonna do a quick screen share now and show you something. Which
your impulse control is incredible, James.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I'm well known for it. I've got a glass of red wine in hand. You know, I'll let out all the secrets by the end of this. But I have managed to secure Sean a couple of early copies of this, which is still a prototype at the moment. But hang on. No, I'm failing at life here. Why am I failing at life? I'm trying to. That's weird. So I've got on a Mac. I've got multiple desktops, and it's showing me every single one to share except the one I want to share. Let's have a go now. No, it still doesn't like it. I'm not sure why. Right, I don't know what I'm going to do about that. I don't know. I think maybe I do know why. Anyway, I'm just waffling nonsense at this stage. I'll get back to that idea in a moment. But effectively, we've had a piece of special. We've been working with Zen Terrain in Poland, and they are working on a few really exciting projects for us. And one of them is a special piece of scenery for the Tech Rush event, which we're going to use in a number of different ways in future scenarios as well. But if you remember the Tech Rush event where both your leaders find themselves trapped in a sort of force field cage, and the contrivance of the game is that you're trying to drop and raise these force fields depending on whether you want your leaders to fight or try and get them to escape.
Yeah, I remember that because the one time I played it and really thought I was onto a winner because I had the bondsman and was really ready to go, and then I never seemed to be able to drop the shield because it just kept on failing. And
yeah, sad times, Thomas. Sad times.
Just an angry, guy with a flaming sword just stuck inside a force field for the entire game.
So there's what I'm trying to show you.
Okay. Amazing piece of work.
Yeah, it's fun, isn't it? So we'll get back to that. We'll get back to looking at that in a minute, but later on. But
it's one of my favourite scenarios. Is that one where neither of you wants to be the one to drop the
That's right. Yeah, and so there are various different consoles, and different consoles drop different force fields. So you're trying to shoot the guy that's in control of the panel that you don't want to be manipulated, while you're trying to defend your own guy.
Yeah. So I've been super successful. I've opened. Oh damn! I really don't want to open this last one.
Pretty much exactly that. Yeah. Okay, and perhaps I know he's watching. Perhaps Sean can drop the link to the Adepticon event in chat, so people, if they want to go themselves or share it to groups that they think might be interested, it'd be great to do that. And I believe that one of those, he's going to build one of those pieces of terrain, and one of them is going to be a prize. So that's well worth looking into. So next on the news list is the fiction competition. So we've been running a fiction competition. The deadline, I think, is the 27th of, or is it the 24th of March? It's late March anyway. And the word limit is 2,500 words. We've had a number of submissions already. I want to sit down and read them all at the same time rather than have my mood or my expectations of that day change the way I view them when I read them through. But I know Tom's going to give me a bit of help judging that as well. But really looking forward to what people are coming up with. Is anybody in the chat joining? And are they going to give us any sneak ideas about what their story might be about?
Don't all type at once.
Well, I can't see the chat, so I'm relying on you guys to.
I think everyone's probably like, keeping it close. There's £50 riding on it.
Well, certainly on the Facebook group, I said, "What's everyone working on?" and there were a whole load of cagey responses of working on something, not going to say anything about it.
Yeah, I've just found that I was just trying to write something myself, just for
One of the guys in the chat's just gone that he's not English speaking native, so not a good writer. I personally think he should write something and then expect you to translate it, Jones.
Yeah.
Write in his native language. I mean, that will go way worse than any attempt to write in English. We've already had one non-native speaker submission. As I say, I haven't read it, but the guy who sent it, I'm not going to say who's entered and who hasn't for the moment, but the guy who entered said exactly that. He said, this isn't my native language, so I hope it's fine. And I said, I'm just actually really excited to just hear the ideas that people have had.
Because also the thing as well is we can if it needs like some editing, then that's not a problem. I think if the story itself holds up,
definitely,
and that it's not a problem to sit there and spend a bit of time to say and offer advice and stuff like that. But it's mostly about the story and sort of getting something that really sort of catches the imagination of what the Drowned Earth is.
Definitely. Yeah. So Neil said that he may be working on something involving a small tribe of natives.
Oh, I think I know what he meant. He's so there is a particular race in the game. So Neil was one of our he's one of our wayfarers, and I'm going to say he's top 5 best demoers I've seen, maybe top 3
comfortably.
But also he won one of the competitions we ran during the Kickstarter to create your own race and have them appear in the rulebook. And ever since, he's been badgering me to make a model of make one of the characters of that race. And we'll see. I'll make no promises.
Yeah. So Jockey, who was talking about being in the Ron native tongue, he's talking about something that will definitely involve pirates.
Yeah. I mean, it's got to be all about pirates, really, hasn't it? That's a given.
So James, when are you going to do something around pirates?
I am saying nothing on the subject. I don't even like pirates. Why do people think I do?
Captain Jack Sparrow, maybe.
I can promise you there won't be any ninjas. Okay. Pirates, though, well. Okay, and so we'll wind up the news section just by talking about some of the new releases. So we are working as we speak. I know I've been a bit cryptic about it and let out the odd minor leak, but we have been working on Wave 2. Wave 2 is going to be smaller from now on. The waves we're probably going to do because there are effectively 5 factions and a dino. We're probably going to try to release 3 models for one faction and then 3 for the other 3. Sorry, 3 models for 3 factions, 3 in one wave, and then 3 models for 3 factions in the next wave, and have the waves coming a little bit more closely together rather than having one with a big gap between, but with release for all 6 factions. Or the last was 5. We didn't do a Wayfarer. We did a Dino. But I guess you probably want to see what we've been working on.
Nah, I'm sure they don't.
No? All right. Excellent. Okay, moving on. What have we got other than news? All right.
Neil wants mounted bondsman.
Mounted bondsman. Yeah, well, so that is something that it won't be in the next 2 waves, but we have actually done a bit of work on that. It's something that will come at some stage, but as I said, won't be the next couple of waves for a few different reasons, which are very interesting. But it's
mostly to try and balance them, because it's like what they hit so hard, and then you put them on a fast-moving dinosaur or something. It's like that.
Well, there's also that, yeah. I mean, there's no way that Limosk on something big enough to carry Limosk isn't going to be expensive, and both money wise as well as points wise.
Yeah,
I have no issue with a 120 point superhero.
I'm sure you don't. Yeah, just him versus 10 models.
Yeah,
sounds fair.
Comes at 200 points, so actually you can never play him.
Yeah, so no, that's something that'll happen, but for sort of various production reasons, I need to keep the waves relatively equal, and he just doesn't fit into the next couple that we're doing. So we're sticking to this pattern where, of course, all the models will be released as individuals, but we're releasing a wave pack every time, which will have, like the last one, a special scenario, and maybe we'll look at trying to throw a few extra things in there as well, like maybe objective markers or something like that. But the next couple of waves are fairly planned out, but I'm just going to show you a few things from the next wave, which will be wave 2.
I'm waiting for the chat to go mental after you show these images.
So we still don't have a firm. I'll try not to make such atrocious puns. The wave 2, we still haven't got like a really clear release schedule just yet. It's probably I want to say late April. Or March, late April or May, something like that we're looking at. But I guess I should just stop waffling and show you what we've got, right? Do you remember what I showed in the last one of these? I showed a concept for a particular model.
Is this testing us, or?
Yeah, well, just anyone really.
Yeah, the next one.
Yeah, so that's the fellow we're talking about. His name is Shanat, and he's a bondsman. I'm not going to go into the rules, but this is on a 30mm base, so he looks like a huge chunky guy, and I mean, he is a relatively chunky model, but he's not sort of Berengi sized, because
that's interesting. Because Neil asked if it's just a shaved gorilla.
I can see where he's coming from on that. Anyway, so that's him. Then the next one is still very much work in progress, but I've got a work in progress shot of the sculpt, but I just thought I'd show the concept art first. And her name is Kaylin, and she is militia.
So I'm waiting for the chat to realise what they're looking at.
Can you see it? Because I'm.
Oh, I can see it.
Yeah.
I can also see the next 3 things next to it though, because you're sharing the sideline as well.
Yeah, unfortunately, there's no way to avoid that. It's it doesn't share my screen; it shares a window.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah,
there we go.
That's Kaylin. Yeah. Kind of interesting looking gun, right? I'm not going to say what it is or anything about it, but it's got some quite fun rules.
There are some really big assumptions being made that this might have something to do with a comic universe.
I have no idea what anyone's talking about.
Nope. Yeah. It's quite clearly a panda.
Well, yeah. So I know some people were asking a little while ago about whether new models are coming out, and I just posted a picture of a red panda because this is another race that's in the rule book. They're called the Ponya, and so the smart money knows that this has been coming for she's been coming for a little while. But yeah, quite a fun one, I think. And let's have a look at the sculpt. As I say, this is work in progress. This isn't a finished render. It's just a temporary render. We've got a few details to nail down, but we're more or less there.
So, you guys in the chat, are you excited about those? Or would you like us to remove the red panda from the release schedule? Somebody's asking, shall we call it Shock It Raccoon?
Shock It Raccoon.
And people seem to be a little bit excited about it.
Yeah, I actually really love this model. When the concept came through, I was like, yeah, that's going to be great. I have to say, Kieran the sculptor has done a great job of bringing it to life in 3 dimensions.
He's absolutely nailed it. Absolutely nailed it.
Yeah, I think he really has. And I think also something quite nice militia. We've already seen Forex smoking a cigar. He's probably given her one, right?
Oh, easily. Or did he steal from her?
Well, who knows? Who knows? I'll leave that to people's imagination.
I have a funny feeling there might be a drastic uptake in militia players in the near future.
Well, so you can see she's wearing a rocket pack, and so there are some bouncing her around the board is actually pretty fun. Right. So next on the agenda is the main event, and possibly we'll explain why we're not releasing models in packs of 5 anymore.
We go.
So that's a 50 mil base. So the same base as the mounted leaders are on.
Such a big dragon. Is it actually a dinosaur?
That's looking pretty
Or is it
pretty
actually
massive
a
there.
lizard dinosaur?
If we just give a scroll through to get a few different angles, effectively, so this is a Ceratosaur, which is basically sort of like a dwarf T-Rex. I know people have been asking for a T-Rex for ages, and I'd love to do one, but the thing would just have to be enormous. I mean, this is already big enough. So on a 50 mil base, this measures about 120 millimeters, something like that, which it doesn't sound like a lot, but when you actually get it in the hand, it's huge.
I've got a very excited 4-year-old next to me about this.
Well, I mean, I was channeling my inner 4-year-old when I commissioned it, I have to say.
I'm not sure I'm going to get the chance to paint this model, to be fair. I think it might end up in a toy box.
You'll have to buy 3. So next on the agenda, I think I've already shown this, so we can have another look at it. You can see where the sort of the force field around the outside, the sort of honeycomb looking thing, is going to be in laser cut colored acrylic. And actually, we've made some recent changes where the rings on the inside are also going to be colored acrylic, because those rings are also force fields. So anyone who's played the Tech Rush, been to an organized play event and played the Tech Rush event will understand what this is all about. It should be pretty fun, I think.
So James, there's a few, now that we've got to the end of that, like there seems to be a few questions that have come up. Unsurprisingly, the majority seem to be about the big dino. So I guess if we just take a moment to answer those quickly, if you get.
Yeah, not saying anything about the rules, if that's what people want to know.
Well, someone was asking about how many points, but obviously, again, it's still a little way out. So I'm assuming you've got an idea, but probably it's going to need a lot of balancing.
Yeah, no, we'll be play testing this one right up until we go to print.
So someone asked if this was the big dino was going to be a scenario piece, or would it be actually an add-on to a
It will definitely be an add-on. You'll be able to use it as a normal dyno, or you'll be able to use it in the scenario that we, the Wave 2 scenario as well. So
anybody that's been to one of the bigger demos, I'm sure will have an idea of the sorts of scenarios we've designed before as fun using a rather large dinosaur.
Yeah, exactly. There's a scenario that was written by Matt Woods and I, which we've run at several different sort of participation game where people can basically drop in and drop out, take one model and try and bring down the T-Rex. And we'd definitely be able to play that scenario with the Ceratosaur. We'd probably beef it up in stats for that scenario in particular. But
Alpha.
yeah, exactly. That's something that's easily doable. I wonder whether anybody noticed what
they did before you say anything.
Conversation. Right. Do you all want to go and have a look at that then? It was a bit of a dick move, wasn't it? Okay, so back to here, and okay, so this is more of the work that Zen Terrain have been doing for us. So this is work in progress. It's not finished. It's not even at the finished prototype stage. But this is a modern drowned earth village. So this is all contemporary building. It's obviously using pre-fall materials, but you can see it's all tied together with bamboo and rushes and lots of planking and what have you. But they've stacked up lots of cargo containers and sort of habitation modules and that sort of thing. Put them on stilts, and this is the sort of living, breathing drowned earth village. And this is one of the two styles of building that we're going to be using for the official drowned earth terrain that Zen are making for us. They'll obviously be making a more conventional set of ruins for us as well. And when I say conventional, of course, it'll be much more. You can buy plenty of ruins, but they all look either like Gothic ruins. Or like 20th century ruins. So we're going to be doing some proper science fiction building looking ruins, which is much more in keeping with drowned earth. And I think you'll be able to mix and match those sets. So you can probably work out by looking at these, anybody who knows anything about laser cut MDF terrain, that these are modular. And so you'll be able to pull them apart and put them together in different configurations. You'll be able to stack them quite high. You'll be able to raise up the stilts on them. You'll be able to connect them with bridges and with ladders where you want to, and leave them unconnected where you want models to leap. So lots of really fun opportunities here, I think, for some excellent board setups.
But the beauty of them as well, James, is it because they've gone modular, is the ability to build in your own stuff. So when we're talking about like the flyovers and the overpasses earlier, there's nothing to say that this can't connect into something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And
everybody seems pretty excited.
Yeah. No, I'm super pumped for these. I think it's going to work out really nicely. We might. The first time I saw these, I immediately thought of people with lots of pot plants outside their house, and washing, hanging up on strings from building to building, and really making them lived in. Possibly having one of the lower levels being a kind of domesticated dino pen. So you can milk your triceratops or whatever it is you do, but or get your Oviraptor eggs for breakfast.
Could definitely build a Waterworld-esque.
Yeah.
Off of this.
Yeah, no, I think there's. I think that's the beauty of laser cut terrain for me, is that if you just want to get up and running really quickly, you can just get all these boards. You can spray them before you've assembled them, get color on them, glue them and assemble them afterwards. You can do as much or as little as you want to detail them afterwards. And
ties in nicely with the scenario-driven gameplay that we've got going with this game as well. So you can, just because you bought a terrain set doesn't mean that it's not going to be transferable across all of them. In fact, it's modular. If you're playing Tech Rush, for instance, and you're going to use the zonal thing, you can still fit that in with this modular solution.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think they're going to look really great when we put them on one of the official mats as well from Deep Cut Studios. I'm really excited to just sort of see the whole whole lot together. And for me, one of my the things I'm most excited about as far as building a table with this stuff is having the juxtaposition of you know, a modern build village with where people actually, you know, inhabit it, in the setting of ruins and jungles and what have you. You know, maybe they've got a bridge going out to their settlement, and there's a bunch of water between, and then a bank of jungle and ruins behind, so that they've separated themselves from it, but that they're both existing on the same board. And as you say, you know, with things like overpasses, you know, sticking out of the water, and you know, various different sort of signs of the previous world. I think I look forward to seeing what people do with these, and I can't wait to get my hands on a set myself as well.
I'm waiting for Sean and some of the guys to build something using cranes and, you know, like a docking area, you know, loads of high lift machinery. I think they'll work in perfectly with some of these shantytown-esque.
Well, actually, I showed this picture. I only got it very recently, and I showed it to someone yesterday, whose immediate response was, "Is that Blackwater rig?" And I thought, yeah, it totally could be, with a little bit of sort of you know, a crane and a you know, a set of docks and some drilling, you know, sort of oil drilling equipment. That sort of thing. It really would be ideal. So yeah, I'm looking forward to someone making that table. The idea,
and transportable. Yeah, the fact it's modular, the fact you can break it down and take it with you, it's going to be amazing for things like events and tournaments.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah, so official terrain, official mats, official tournament scenery, and of course we're going to be using this in our demos as well. Really looking forward to having all of that stuff under our belt, so to speak. So I think that takes us to the end of the news section. That's just about all I've got. Seems like quite a lot, actually. I don't know whether we'll have anything. Well, we definitely won't have anything like as much next month. But you know,
you keep losing next month stuff this month.
I mean, that's exactly it. Yeah. My impulse control is terrible, so we do too much one month and not enough the one after. But so today we said we covered the artifactors a little bit last time, and this time we said we would start to talk about the firm. So the second of our factions. Of what I call the middle of the road factions, the versatile ones rather than the specialists. So I know you've both got some experience, either of I think Simon, you've got a bit of experience playing the firm, and Tom mostly it's playing against.
Yeah.
But we thought we'd just have a bit of a tactics conversation. This is definitely one where anyone in the chat has anything to add. We'd love to hear it.
And we're not plying you with any more wine because they're asking you to drink more wine because Finn's
out of light. So, although
if you guys turn up to the event and at the end of the month at the Top Table Legacy, you never know what might happen.
Yeah. I mean, for the price of a half decent bottle, I don't drink cheap crap though. By the way, just so you know. But
I've seen you on a couple of bottles of vinegar before.
Well, do you know what? Everything tastes fine after the first bottle.
That's the truth.
But yes, we are talking about the firm, and we're basically a bit of list building, a bit of tactics. So Simon, let's start with you. What's your general impression of the firm as a faction overall?
So for me, the firm, they're a lot more in your face. So, you know, they've got some real, even their shooty guys, they want to get up close. So people like Merja, she wants to be close. You know, she's not the sort of person that's not to say they don't. You know, Papa Venk, absolutely love him. For me, one of the best snipers in the game. One of our other beta testers, Matt Vile, he'll tell you how much he hates Papa Venk from playing against me during the play testing.
Yeah, but he's a Hove fanboy, so we have no sympathy for him whatsoever.
He will learn. He will learn. One of these days, he will learn. I'm not sure how many days, but he will learn. But ultimately, you know, they thrive more on up close and personal. Everybody apart from Canada, who loves sitting back and telling everybody else what to do.
Yeah, yeah, and those twin Uzis are pretty decent. He's fairly good with them, and I think the gunslinger ability is always a very nice one.
Definitely. So I mean, I kind of put a list together for 120 points. Probably more tailored to the sort of way I like to play the game.
Yeah.
So I love having activation advantage. I'm an artifact player primarily, so it takes a lot for me to get somebody like a Mounted Nyx on the table, just because I like to have those options. So I've kind of gone with more of a numbers salute and list than as tempting as it was to stick a Mounted Canada in the list.
Yeah.
So I've gone with Canada, Hosk, Lisk, Venk, Merger, and Lakask. So pretty much the entire squad of foot-based guys, and then just a couple of cards to fill out the final 5 points with Take Cover and Reckless Leap.
Take Cover is one that I really like with the firm.
Why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's because they quite often, because they're it works well with the artifactors as well, but the middle of the road factions where they're going up against someone, they're reasonably good at something, but they're going up against, however good you are at close combat, if you're going up against the bondsman, you're out of luck. And obviously Take Cover is a ranged effect, but similarly, I think I've used Take Cover quite a few times on a matchup of Lakask versus Hove. So Hove's there with the headshot, like awful sniper, and
so powerful against the militia, it's not even funny.
Yeah, exactly. So you pop Lakask out, you slap down Take Cover, and just sort of have a pop at him. And I think in general, anything that just gives you that edge, that allows you in a versatile faction that's sort of middle of the road, all of those cards that give you a little bit of edge, which just bring you up to the standard that the experts at that thing you're trying to do, it's always gonna be helpful. Obviously, the obvious tactic is, if you're against the militia with the firm, you want to get into close combat. Don't try and beat them at their own game. And the converse is true with the bondsman. But you can't always do that. There are times where you just need to do things the way that you've got to do them. And so Take Cover is a great one.
Definitely, and Reckless Leap. It's always great to have that. For me, it's one of those cards that's just nice to have in any squad when you need to make that charge up to an objective, or that combat that needs to happen. Just give you a little bit more security in making that final difficult movement.
And it's very often the difference between getting to that objective, being able to score it, and having and not being able to, wasting one fluffing one activation and then having to spend your last one that you wanted to spend on scoring the objective on moving again. So the big question then on that list is Killer Instinct or Stun Grenades?
I think that's an interesting one. For me, it depends on who you're playing against, and also the scenario itself. And to an extent, the board. I know that's kind of a get out of jail statement, but if you've got a heavy terrain board where the sheer volume of camouflage and stealth that this list I built can put out there, if you've got the ability to get up there, I think the grenades is less than a not requirement. However, it can be nice to literally just almost try and turn off a turn.
I think Killer Instincts is more often not the better choice, but I'm inclined to go with Stun Grenades just because I never remember to use Killer Instinct. I forget every time. If you're sharp at looking at your opponent's armor dice and remembering to shout out when they roll those 9s and 10s, then it's fantastic. You know, the advantage of it really is that models like Liss, who she output, you know, or Lacasque as well, that output a maximum of 3 damage, you can still one-shot a model when you've got Killer Instinct. You know, even low damage output models like you know, the Nova Cannon with Lacasque, you know, they roll a 9 and a 10, they're dead. You know, if those are their armor rolls, then you've taken them out in one go.
Stupid as it sounds, I'd almost take stun grenades into artifactors.
Yeah,
where they rely on having the ability to use all of their activations so much more, because it's more that maneuvering, getting into position, getting somewhere quickly. You can mess with their ability to do stuff. Yeah.
I also think that stun grenades are quite powerful against the bondsman, because when they are quite close and they're just about to close and smash face and take names, you can just postpone them for another turn and get another round.
Give them a bad day. Give them it's a horrendous day. You've got somebody like the bondsman setting up for that big turn, like they generally tend to do. If you can push that back a turn.
Particularly if you can get it in at the end of the turn. So if you can stun them and postpone that to the next turn, then you refresh on activation points, and you've got, you know, double reactions against all of their charges. You know, that can be super good, but it's situational. Whereas Killer Instinct is just always a good one, and potentially, you know, over the course of a game, the amount of extra damage output that card can give you is immense.
Definitely. I mean, Neil was saying for him, it's Killer Instinct every time. Although his friends do tend to roll higher than usual, so that probably helps. Where Sean's kind of similar to what I was saying in regards to the artifactors, but he's saying from a militia point of view, the ability to strip the amount of shots they can take, game changing against the militia.
So
he's 100% right on that one.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely true, and I think that I mean, I just can't sing in Lacasque's praises enough. You know, for a 15-point model, he's been so used in so many games. Again, situational model. You know, largely a lot of the time he's just another activation. You spent 15 points on another pair of legs, another activation, another couple of action points that you can potentially Canada can leech off him and give to someone else. But when you do need him, when you've got you know, somebody in a decent sort of sniping position, overlooking an important area, being able to you know, pop a Nova grenade at them and you know, neutralize them for a turn is invaluable, and I've managed to put it to good use so many times. And also the fact that he's camouflaged as well, you know, just makes that in that reaction, it's a win-win basically. You know?
I mean, this list, the ability to have, you know, Venk up in a sniper's nest, doing what Venk does, picking off people when they dare to put their head out. Chucking Lacasque and Murder up either flank. You know, you've got two people in camouflage. Up the flanks. Throw Lisk up the middle with stealth. You know, slowly working his way up until he's in place. You know, the plan is Canada kind of play midfield command, so use the Uzis when he needs to, but stripping activations across and moving them when he needs to, and then basically to use Hosk like a massive battering ram, straight up the middle of the. And that kind of works in two ways. You know, you either use him to distract the other person because he's a rather large focal point when he's marauding up the center of the table, at which point, you know, you've got the guys coming up the flank who just aren't being touched. You're not being looked at because you've got a giant, you know, to choose to use the community's name, Crack Monkey, going straight up the center of the field. Alternatively, you know, if they do ignore him, happy days. So you've got a Crack Monkey in the middle of their flaming field.
That's it.
And he's going to hit like a truck and do Hosk thins. And then, as you know, as we discussed earlier, the cards are there to just, you know, fill out the points as well, but you know, protect if things go wrong.
That's it. And I mean, you know, the average bondsman is still better in a fight than in a close combat fight than Hosk by a shave. And they've got the extra armor. But if you manage to lob a stun grenade at them, or Liss manages to get some stun on them, then and they're out of activations, then it's plain sailing for Hosk to take them out. That rocket propelled hammer is gonna it's gonna strip two armor points from, when you're rolling your armor dice, it's taking 2 off whatever you were going to roll either way with the bondsman, because all of them have got some form of armor.
I really like using Merger as well as in a way of because of her almost insane accuracy with lighting people on fire.
Yeah.
Not necessarily from a damage perspective, but just to screw again with the other person's activation. Put them on
She's
fire.
just a great threat vector. You can ignore her because she can't do anything until she gets up close.
Exactly.
And so you can ignore her, and it's actually quite tempting to ignore her because she's also camouflaged. So you're going to have a bit of a hard time hitting her sometimes, and you don't necessarily want to waste the activation. And then all of a sudden, she's set 3 people on fire in one turn.
And realistically, the damage doesn't necessarily always get through, but it forces them to have to jump into the water.
Yeah.
At which point they're taking themselves away from the direct line they wanted to go at. They're slowing themselves down because they're in the water. For me, she's more of a deterrent piece than necessarily a direct damage piece, because she's forcing people to go in a direction they didn't want to go.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm quite tempted at 120 points to take Kaneda, Hosk, Liss, Aranax, 5 Oviraptors and a Utahraptor, just because every single model in that list other than the Utahraptor and Kaneda have ambush. So pretty much whatever your opponent does, that they're going to get jumped.
Aranax is one of them ones. I think Aranax is the first Wayfarer. If I'm going to put a Wayfarer into a firm list, he's the first Wayfarer that sits in, because I think he just fills out a role that they need really.
Yeah, he's fairly strong. He's expensive. So basically he's 1 point more than Liss and very similar in stats, but he's got 1 more point of armor. And his the ranged weapon is a trade-off. He does definitely more close combat damage output than Liss, but without the stun. And the shotgun does more damage but doesn't have any sort of special tricks. So I think they're actually quite they go quite well together. They're both got stealth and ambush, and they're very similar stat wise. So it's sort of like getting more of the same, which I quite like. But at 120 points, I find it hard not to find a reason to squeeze Kaneda mounted in somewhere. That Mantis with reach is just horrific. It makes your charge range so much higher when you just get that extra 2 inches.
Plus the ability to have, if you've got Hosk in there as well, to have 2 characters in the same lineup with climb. I don't think that can be sold short.
No,
it's probably one of the skills that we talk about less. It's so powerful.
No, it really is. And anything to do with mobility in Drowned Earth is always important. But I think one of the things about the mounted leaders and Kaneda mounted in particular, because he's just so effective in close combat, is the 3 activations on a mounted model that's going like 5/7. And so 7/7/7, 21 inches a turn, with the reach 2, means he can sort of bound 2/3 of the way across the board and thump you in the face.
You've also got the option with the mounted. You look at them; they're expensive, the mounted guys. But if you need to, it's still 2 models. You separate them out. You've got 2 options. If you need that activation advantage.
And I think it's a mistake not to separate them a lot of the time. I think it's something that people overlook. But being able to get Kaneda where you need him really quickly with climb. Dump him next to an objective, and then send the Mantis off to just scare the living bejesus out of people.
I can't remember
every time I see that Mantis.
I played Artifactors where I've used mounted Nyx, and she hasn't been dismounted by at the latest the end of turn 2.
So here's the question: how often do you remount?
Never.
So I do from time to time, but usually when I separate the models, they end up both going and doing something important, and so they don't come back next.
But mine just end up too far apart to justify moving them back together.
Yeah. But I think another thing is actually that whole business of, if you've got to score several objectives in a game, Canada, running him up, Canada hopping off, scoring the objective, hopping back on, running to the next objective, and it also, the Mantis makes him so much more survivable. You can only hit him on a nailed it. Otherwise, you're hitting the Mantis, and the Mantis is rolling 6s for defense. It's fairly strong.
I can think of a leader that I do guarantee to remount every game. Because he doesn't do anything if he's not.
Well, we're not going to get into all that again, but
great terrain piece to hide behind, though.
Do you know what? That actually, I think, is the best use for, because more than any other mounted leader, Hosk Forex mounted is a payoff. And that's one of the reasons why the mounted profile isn't much more expensive than the foot profile. It is, but not proportionally compared to the other mounted leaders. And it's because it doesn't do anything once you dismount. But also you lose what he's best at, which is shooting. And you don't lose it because he can still do it, but you've got to dismount. And then you dismount and you've got built-in hard cover. And an excellent range model.
He's a model I see. I know we're going off track because we're talking about the firm, but with him, he's the one that I see potentially dismounting every turn.
Yeah.
Move up, dismount, hide behind, do what you need to do.
Yeah.
Remount the next turn, move, do the same. Rinse and repeat.
Yeah. And also, again, it's just a mobility. That's one of the things I like most about Canada mounted. Canada isn't a super mobile character as agility 6 and normal movement, but he's just got legs and the climb ability as well. Just makes him, you can get him way more easily where you need him to be.
Yeah.
Cool. So, Tom, you're still around?
Yeah. I
cool,
just
cool.
let you guys run with that. Because you just did I had a look at the 100-point list. The thing is actually out of the starter box, it comes to 99 points, so you could just run that group. But I tried to mix it up a little bit more. So I went for 100 points with Canada, Hosk, Venk, Mirja, and a Jutta and a Dilo Saw, which comes to exactly 100 points.
Yeah, and then you've just got those few extra. You've got that extra activation and a bit more versatility.
The trade-off is that you lose Liz. You lose the stealth, but it's offset by the fact that I put Hosk and the Jutta Raptor together as that kind of real sort of that brick that when it hits you, those two will just chew through pretty much anything. I think even like a bondsman probably, thinking about the top tier sort of hitters, they're still not going to probably hold up against those two. And as you said, Mirja just has that kind of gets a bit ignored. You think, oh, I'm out of flamer range, and all of a sudden she's there burning you. And the Dilo is just like a really annoying, because every time I face them, they always seem to hit me. They always take out like one of my activations. And I really needed that activation to do something, and it's absolutely stuck my plans. So, and Canada's just like a really versatile leader. The fact that his Uzis, like he has gunslinger, and when he hits something, he's also got his like close combat ability, which is counter strike. So he actually can hold his own in both. So really sort of can either be supporting Hosk and running up, or can sit back with Venk, who just Venk is Venk. He just he will sit there and snipe and be super dangerous. As I said, you have to trade off by the fact you don't have a stealth. So you have that ability to.
But I think trading out lists is a legitimate choice. I totally see that one. And actually, one of the things I like about Kaneda's Counter-Strike ability is, especially against the bondsman, you know, even when they beat you in close combat, you can still hurt them. You know, you bounce back, whatever. So Kaneda's standard defense is going to be 4. When he's on the Mantis, it's 6, and the Mantis still has Counter-Strike. That's pretty horrendous. But one of the most hilarious things about it is that if you've taken Killer Instinct, you can reflect their wounds back on them, and then they can roll 9s and take double wounds. So you know, just getting as much value out of that counter strike as possible. I think at 100 points, I tend to drop Hosk, and it hurts to do it, but I kind of swap him in for Lacasque, and Lacasque plus a Dilo, exactly as you said, Tom. I think that's a really legitimate choice. And
I think that's similar with all of the factions with the Berengi. I think when you're looking at the 100 points, it's quite easy to drop the Berengi from all 4 factions because they are such a large volume of the points. You're looking realistically, you know, 30% of the points in a list at that for a Berengi. So I think sometimes it is the easier drop if you're looking for options.
Is the one you probably will drop because they don't have, you know, they're not the mechanic, they're not the medic or anything like that. So
no specialisms at all.
Yeah, that's the other thing. And actually, I think there's a case to be made for dropping Hosk and Liss, swapping in Lacasque and maxing out on the dinos just for activations. You know, what can you do? You could take 3 dome heads, or you could take a Dilo and 2 Oviraptors in exchange for Liss. So then you'd still have 4 characters and a handful of dinos as well. I think
they're in the firm are in a nice place where their medic is also a sniper.
Yeah.
So it's something that, you know, he is, you know, in Venk, he is the only real true sniper in the list in the faction. Yeah. He's also their medic. So you kind of touch in 2, for me, quite, you know, important parts of a list build in one model. And then you've got 2 options.
Stuck a little bit that you want to hold back with him and get him somewhere by himself important. And then when somebody else gets shot down, you're like, oh, my medic's all the way over there. But on the other hand, if you just don't have an opportunity to get him in that sniper's nest early in the game, it can be really useful to walk him up with whoever it is, as you would with a normal medic. Just walk him up.
When you've got Venk in your list, you are, if you're winning that role, you're choosing table edge all day long.
Yeah,
because you're going to take the option. You're going to be. He's one of them models like Hosk who forces you to really look at the way the board is laid out to see what is best for you. Yeah, going first isn't necessarily important for them.
Yeah, I think that's right. Now I think we've covered the firm quite nicely. Actually, it was really interesting to hear both of your thoughts on which models to swap out, and you know, I always the effect card choices are always fascinating to me. Because it shows you what people are anticipating they're going to be doing in that game, and where they think whether they want to double down on something they're already good at, or just take some effect cards for contingency.
Sean's dropped a couple of messages in the chat. He seems to be experimenting a lot with different types of dinos. So using Dilos, for instance, to go AP hunting. Yeah, essentially, you know, go out, use their spits to strip AP, force the other people. So similar like what we were talking with the stun grenades. Yeah, and then he's also been thinking of possibly using Trudons like hunting dogs. You know, send them out, harass the thins, flush out the guys. In you know, for people like Kaneda and Venk to pop them off as they step out.
Yeah, and I think that's exactly the right way to think about the dinosaurs. They're basically, you're running interference with the little ones. You know, you're trying to stun people. You know, you're either trying to use the Dilos to stun people at range, or you're just throwing Oviraptors at them or throwing dome heads at them just to make them spend those activations. Because there's no such thing as a model that isn't dangerous in Drowned Earth. You know, if you ignore them and you let them hit you without a reaction, you know, potentially it's going to hurt. So I guess it's it's one of those things where it's both the activation advantage, building up an activation advantage, but also just trying not necessarily to achieve your ends with the dinos, but use them to make it easier for the rest of your crew to do what they need to do.
Yes, I think that's, for me, that's how I've used them before. Is you can use them, similar with other games, with Guild Ball, things like that, where you've set things up so you want a specific action, you want somebody to do something very specific, and then the other person, if they go second, they're great at delaying so that you can't do it. Dinos are a great point because they're cheaper. You can generally fit a few more of them into the list in exchange for somebody like Hosk, and you can use them to force the other people if they've got less people in their squad.
Yeah.
So that they end up having to move into the position where you can use those reactionary orders if that's how you've set up your shop.
Yeah, I know people have often asked me, usually people that haven't played too much of the game, Dilos, they're 7 points, the other dinos are like 5 and 6, and they're worse stat wise. And it's like, yeah, but you're clearly don't have any idea how useful stun is. What a horrible ability that is and there's a reason
absolutely wreck the other person's plan.
Yeah, you can at the right moment. And from a design point of view, that's something I tried to limit, to make sure there wasn't too much of those sort of denial tactics.
Even just removing their ability to do reactions because they've got less options.
That's it.
It either reduces what they can do or allows you more freedom in what you're doing.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, I guess next time we're going to move on to chat about the militia. So we'll have some more thoughts on what the best way to, well, not the best way, just the way that we think about approaching the militia. And again, if anybody's got any comments or suggestions or what have you, please leave them in the chat below. Now, we were also going to have a general gaming chat, but we're running over time-wise. Actually, we've done pretty well at being overly verbose, I think. So we'll just very quickly run through all three of us. Simon, what have you been playing recently, other than the Drowned Earth, of course?
Bit of Guild Ball. It's one of them easy fallback ones. I've been getting ready to play a bit of The Walking Dead, actually. Walking Dead Hell at War. So looking forward.
I've heard that's a good game. I've not played it, but
yeah, well, we'll get you involved when we go to the top table weekend.
Great. Yeah. I'd
really like on the Sunday they're doing a couple of the guys are running an event. So I've been playing a bit of that. Definitely doing some Guild Ball. Loving the changes they've done recently. And they're just playing around with some other stuff. So
you've still been doing a lot of Arkham Horror, the card game?
100%.
I'm gonna put my hands up and say I think that's one of the best games to be released in the last couple of years.
For me, that is the embodiment of an LCG. The fact that I can have everything myself and get 3 mates round, and I've got a campaign going on with three guys that live locally to me at the moment.
Yeah,
we're slowly working our way through the different scenarios. It's an amazing game at pulling you into it. So it's not just a card game. You genuinely feel like you're becoming part of the character you're playing. I think that is, a really, really well played out, really well planned game, and it's got so much future proofing in it as well. They've got the ability to go to different places that are completely unrelated to Arkham. They can go back to
it's the strength of the narrative that really comes across well in that game, as you say, got loads of different options and very, very clever game design from the point of view of your building your deck and effectively leveling up your character. But I just think the way that game exudes narrative and the way that you really get this very strong sense of going on a journey and going through a story is really, really strong. I like it a lot. Tom, how about you?
So I've been playing through a kind of mini Necromunda campaign with Army.
Okay.
And John has absolutely smashed my face in the first 2 games already, so I could just...
Lots of Drowned Earth suitable terrain for that game.
Yeah, definitely a lot of multitasking, multi-purpose terrain for that. But the campaign hasn't gone particularly well for me. I think 4 of my gangers have ended up with like debilitating injuries, like hands blown off or lost eyes, which is kind of difficult when John's a very nice guy and he kind of sits there looking a bit like sheepish when he's absolutely kicked the snot out of me. But apart from that, I've also video game wise have been playing a lot of Apex Legends.
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah. I tried it. In fact, I said to a few people on Twitter recently, I fired it up, played it about 3 times, got headshotted every time, didn't manage to get any kills on anybody, and just thought, yeah, I mean, I'm too old for this.
Yeah, it's free to play. And,
yeah.
Like the battle royale game, I really enjoyed the format of game, but it's so stressful.
Yeah.
You know, when you're down in like the kind of latter parts of the game and you've got your stuff, and then you think, if I mess up now, it's all gonna, 20 minutes has gone down the toilet. But
it looks beautiful.
It does. It's done by the team that made Titanfall, which is some of my favorite first-person shooter games. Titanfall has a brilliant story, and I think you can either get it for free on PC through Origin Access, or it probably only costs about $5 at most. It's definitely worth playing through. So yeah, I would definitely recommend anyone who fancies a free-to-play game. Just probably be ready to sort of lose to aimbotting 12-year-old Swedish dudes who are like, played it for like non-stop since launch. Just enjoy it basically. But yeah, I've been playing that quite a bit, so it's got more time than it should.
Well, and why not? So I've been my gaming has mostly been board and card games recently. I started off the year playing quite a lot of Keyforge. I haven't played much of it. I never tend to take a very competitive attitude to these sorts of things, and so I wanted to go to a bunch of the official events and stuff like that, but I tend to dislike the atmosphere at some of these places where people start taking it really seriously. But I think it's a great game. I'm really a big fan of it. My only criticism of it is that there's like very little theme going on there. But I think that's with the exception of Android Netrunner, that's a sort of innate characteristic of those kind of 2-player dueling card games.
But I think it's an effect of the player base as well, isn't it? A lot of the player base don't necessarily, when look at Magic, how many of the top Magic guys actually give a damn about the actual lore and the background and the narrative to it? I think it is the nature of what it is.
Yeah, and I think that there's obviously a lot of lore and background and narrative in the releases and what have you, but for me anyway, it almost never comes across in the game with Magic. They've done some cool things recently where you put out a card and you sort of score points on that card, and then you flip it and it turns into something else, which is thematic. Like you're putting it on the jungle road, and then it flips over and it's an ancient temple, and now you've got that artifact ancient temple that does stuff, but and it's sort of like you've gone on a journey and you've explored and discovered this temple. But other than those few moments, there's very little narrative really going on in Magic, I think, and that's definitely true of Keyforge as well. But that said, I really like the activation system. I really like the fact you pick a faction and you dump all of your cards. You play all of the cards you want to from that faction, and that's all you can do. And there's no resource management. It's got around the Magic problem of having not enough or too much mana. You've always got loads of options and loads of stuff to do, and it feels very dynamic and exciting. I think
you can definitely feel the amount of time that Richard Garfield put into developing that game. It wasn't something he's done over the course of 6 months. No. I mean, he releases about one game every 4 years, and it's always knocked straight out the park. It's either Magic or King of Tokyo, or Keyforge has done. Sure, I think I read somewhere that Keyforge was in development for about 10 years.
Right. Yeah. I can believe it. But yeah, so I've been doing a bit of Keyforge. I've been playing some Root as well. I've been enjoying that. That's a very sort of bizarre, completely unbalanced, really compelling, weird game, which I like a lot. And in a similar vein, I recently, with a mutual friend of Tom and I, played Fire in the Lake, which is an old GMT game. And GMT's a very clever publishing house of sort of pretty intense, pretty I don't want to say overwrought, but certainly very, complicated war games and board games, but not sort of counter and hex style war games. Although I think we do some of those as well. But Fire in the Lake's about the Vietnam War, and it's a very interesting. They call it the coin system, which is the counterinsurgency system. There are a number of board games in this series. All published by GMT with this same system of creating influence and control in different areas. And so that was very interesting, and it ties in with Root. And the reason why I've been playing both of those is because it's also ties into an idea that I've had for a game. And so inevitably, when you get a game idea, you then have to go and play. I know people who say, "Oh, I don't play other people." Designers who say, "I don't play other people's games because they'll like infect me with their ideas," which is ridiculous. It's like directing films without ever having seen a film.
And there's no such thing as a new idea anymore, anyway.
No, of course.
So you find something completely new is almost impossible.
Most games, I think, are a combination of standing on the shoulders of giants, but finding a new way to combine. You don't invent pepper and asparagus. It's the way that you combine them together that creates something new. Both of those I've been doing a fair bit of, but the number one on my list at the moment is I've been with my significant other. We played through Pandemic Legacy Season 1 and literally binged it like Netflix. We finished it in 2 weekends, and have now got onto Season 2 and are similarly devouring that. But I have to say, rate that very, very highly. I'm always slightly suspicious of hype. I'm here to tell you people the hype is not bullshit. Give certainly Season 1, give it a go, particularly if you've played Pandemic. I don't think you need to like Pandemic to like the campaign though.
It's a game on my list. I just haven't had the chance to play. I don't own it, and it's just finding people. It's one of them ones that when I can find a group of people to play it through with. Definitely on my list. That's
it. I mean, look, it came out in 2015. So for 4 years, I've been wanting to play this damn thing,
and it's been on the top of the ratings for pretty much the entire time, alongside Gloomhaven. So.
It was number one on Board Game Geek for ages, and it really deservedly as well. But I think with all of those legacy games, it's just a time commitment, isn't it? You say, okay, well, in order to do this, we only want to play with the same group of people, and so now we need to make sure it's a bit like running an RPG night. You
Arkham Horror,
same lineup, and you want to make sure that everybody comes. And if one person doesn't come, do you still play? Do you cancel? Can you all organise one night every month or 2 nights a month where you're actually going to get together? And so the logistics of those things are complicated. But like most things in life, things that require more investment give higher reward, and Pandemic Legacy is definitely on the very rewarding scale as far as I'm concerned.
Another one I've been playing, I forgot to mention, that says a group of guys that have you ever seen the game Formula D?
Yeah, I know.
So we basically created. There's 12 of us, and we're doing an entire Grand Prix season.
Oh, that's fun.
Formula D. Yeah. So every other week there's a qualifying and a race. It's been great fun.
So you're sort of approaching it campaign style, because that's not part of the game, is it? You don't. There's no capacity to do that in the game.
Yeah, we've got loads of house rules already. Yeah. We've done 3 races, 3 qualifying, 3 races so far, and there's so many house rules we've had to put in just because you read the rules and then you go, yeah, that's not going to work.
Yeah. Okay, so quickly, let's move on. Let's just take, if anybody in the chat's got questions, we're really running over quite a lot now. So we'll just take, like, let's say 3 questions. First 3 that aren't about pirates.
Oh no, he did. Jack's had to go. So.
Oh, okay. Anything?
Well, I'm waiting for us to move on from Steamforged at the moment.
Oh, right, okay.
Can dinos jump?
So the general rule, rules book wise, is that if the rules describe the ability to do something and they don't specifically prohibit one particular type of model or whatever from doing it, the answer is yes, definitely. You can't make a rule book full of a list of all the things that people can't do. So don't assume that just because it says you can't, that you can't. Sorry, I'm now talking nonsense, aren't I?
Just say yes.
Dinos can climb.
Thank you.
Okay.
2 minutes to answer a 30-second question.
Kieran,
the other one, you must have seen this one coming. How long till the release is, like the terrain and the people like that?
Don't know. I'd love to tell you. Don't know. I'm not gonna set expectations which I then have to disappoint, because all of these things, then it's not me working on my time scale. I'm working with other people, and so I can't guarantee. It's why it's always a danger showing these things when in an ideal situation I'd sit on all of them until they were ready to be released and then show them to people. But if you want to see sneak peeks and works in progress and that sort of stuff, then inevitably the answer is going to be I can't tell you, but as soon as possible, because I'm certainly motivated to get them out quickly.
To answer one of the questions, unfortunately neither myself or James are going to be at Vengeance this weekend.
No.
So it's unlikely there will be any demos this weekend. However, if you come to Top Table Legacy in 3 weeks' time, we'll be doing demos all weekend, Friday through Sunday, and on this Saturday we're doing a slow grow league. It's an amazing way of learning the game and getting your head around it all.
Yeah, but I mean, there are actually a bunch of Drowned Earth players who will be at Vengeance, so and they've got scenery at.
Jay's going to have his stuff there, so I'm sure if in the evening you go over and have a word with Jay, I'm sure he can find somewhere for you to whack some terrain and use some of his models and get going there.
Excellent. Is that 3? Have we done them?
The last one, Neil. Any chance of an event down south?
Yes, probably not before the summer though. So nothing planned. But Simon, we've spoken about this, potentially doing something at Wayland Games.
That's the hope, yeah.
We don't have any plans for it at the moment, but yeah. And also the thing is that, like, from my perspective, I really need to concentrate on, like, keeping the game running, and I'm designing other games as well for the future, and planning on campaign systems and new model releases and what have you. I don't really want to spend my year organizing events, because I'm already these two kind gents on the chat with me help me out, but effectively this whole enterprise is a one-man band, and so I need to be careful about how I use my time. So something like if we were to run an event down south at Wayland, we'd absolutely do it, and I'd absolutely go, but I probably wouldn't have been doing the organizing. That's sort of what we have the Wayfarers for. But yes, hopefully we will be able to get something done.
At some point, probably. I reckon late summer. We're probably looking at. I've got some stuff coming up in the next couple of months that's going to take my focus away for a little bit. But hopefully late summer.
Well, with luck and a fair wind, we can do a Tech Rush tournament in the south, because we've done one in the north, and maybe it'll be in time to have the official terrain.
Great launch party.
All right, so I think we'll leave it there, guys. Thanks to everyone for watching, and whether you're watching live in chat now or whether you watch this in the future, of course, these videos will get posted to YouTube. Do feel free to share them with your friends who weren't here watching, or who you think might be interested, and we will see you next month.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers. Okay, bye.
Bye now.